program says that we are to I am to introduce our guest speaker, but I want to just pause for a minute and acknowledge and ask him if he would come and say a few remarks. The mayor of this great city, Mayor Mark Bowser.
Thank you very much, Pastor. It's my pleasure to be here this evening. We have a lot of pastors in the room, and Pastor Hill told me don't preach me tonight, so I won't. It's a little joke we have going on in this church, because when he gives me the podium, I don't shut up. And but it is an honor to be with such distinguished people, to be with people that are community leaders and that are making a difference. They're not just talking about making a difference, they're making a difference each and every day in our city. And the fact that we're saluting you tonight, I congratulate you and honor you for the work that you do. God bless you and keep up the good work. Let's give them a round of applause. We also have some distinguished folks with us today. Pastor Pitts has asked that I recognize them. I certainly will do that. So no particular order, but we have State Representative Jason Bartlett that's here. State Representative Joe Tabersack is here as well. Joe. I believe we have Alice Hutchinson, who's the town chairman of Bethel. First Selectman Rudy Marconi from Ridgefield is with us. Dr. James Snotter from Western Connecticut State University was with us. I'm not sure if he still is, but let's give him a round of applause anyway. And Bobby Poole, Director of Community Action in the City of Danbury, doing a terrific job. Bobby. We have our 2007 legends, Mr. Cherry, Mr. Halstead, and Ms. Letha Perkins. God bless you. Connecticut State President Scott Edsel here as well. Scott. Member of our Common Council Jane Diggs and member of our Common Council Dwayne Perkins. And of course, Gladys Cooper, member of our Board of Education. Just a quick note about our keynote speaker tonight, Denise Napier. I was having a conversation about the state of Connecticut and the strength of our finances. And Denise, I just want to let you know that in this conversation we all agree that you're probably the most intelligent treasurer you've ever had in the state of Connecticut. You're doing a fine job. We don't want private industry to steal you away just yet. You've got more work to do, particularly in these turbulent, difficult economic times. We need you in that post, so keep up the great job that you're doing. Protect our pensions. Good to see you. And for everybody else, congratulations on a wonderful dinner. God bless you, and God bless our America. Thank you.
Mayor Bowden, I want you to hear this. Mayor, I want you to hear this. Mayor and I have had some tough times in the last several months, but he is still my friend, even though we clash in policy at times. And so when you all give the mayor a round of applause. Also, we have David Stevenson with us today as well. Someone asked me, what does the NAACP do, and are we still relevant? And I just want to share a few highlights of the last couple years. We were reestablished about 2.5 years ago. We were in the red, and now we are financially in the black. I hope we're still that way at the end of the night. Amen. But if not, we have the state treasury maybe can write us a check. We have hosted successful health fairs. We have hosted and put on workshops as it relates to police and community relations, and we've learned some lessons from this workshop, is that we can't blame the police all the time for some of the things that we don't do right. Amen. 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 We have collaborated with Western Connecticut State University, and we had an outstanding Martin Luther King Day celebration where we had one day. We had Sister Lanier, who was part of the Little Rock Nine, and next year in January, we're having Ruby D celebrate with us. Hey, see, we're doing some stuff. We set a goal of about 100 new registrations for the voter registration this year, and from my understanding, we have doubled that goal. We'll also be providing transportation to those who would like to, who need help and would like to be escorted to the polls. We have been invited to the table by both Democrats and Republicans to share our concerns, and they have been taken to heart. But we face challenges still in the future. We have to ensure that our children are being properly educated here in this city and throughout the state, and we must fight for that. We must hold our people, all of our people, accountable to excellence, and that we are our brother's keepers, and that we need to begin to tell the truth. Tell the truth to ourselves about what we do or do not do that has gotten us into certain situations, and that we must first correct our own actions before we can begin to challenge others about how they treat and how they behave toward us. Amen, lights. And so the work of justice, work of social service is hard, it's dangerous, but it is needed, and with the grace and power of God, we can do it. All right? Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Little Baptist Church, we have our next meeting of the branch, and I would invite all you all there. It is my task and my honor to introduce to you all our keynote speaker, the 82nd Treasurer of the state of Connecticut, who was elected in 1998, re-elected in 2002, and again in 2006. She is the first, or was the first African American woman elected to a state treasurer in the United States of America. The first African American woman ever re-elected to a statewide office in the state of Connecticut. And the first woman to be elected to state treasurer in Connecticut's history. So we have someone, if you were to Google distinguished women, she would come up in the top 5. Amen. As Connecticut's chief elected financial officer, Treasurer Napier manages approximately, listen to this number, $50 billion in state funds, including the $26 billion state pension fund that Mayor Bowden was talking about. A strong proponent of diversity and a catalyst for economic opportunity, her administration has set an all-time Treasury record in the procurement of financial services from minority-owned firms, women-owned firms, and emerging firms. Yeah, y'all should clap. She is also investing pension dollars in Connecticut's urban communities, led the way in establishing Connecticut's individual development account program to help the poor working families achieve economic self-sufficiency, and has developed partnerships with community and faith-based organizations to promote financial education. Treasurer Napier was named one of the nation's top 100 most influential people in finance by Treasury and Risk Management magazine. And one of the, y'all can clap, and and I won't pause because she has done some incredible things. So don't hesitate to clap. And one of the nation's top 50 most powerful African American women in business by Black Enterprise. In March, she received the prestigious Living Legends Award from Boston's Museum of African American History. What's not on her bio is that she is very humble, she's powerful, she's beautiful, and she loves her some God. Amen. Amen. It is a pleasure and great privilege that I introduce to you the State Treasurer of Connecticut, the Honorable Denise NAACP.
Good evening, everybody. Mayor Broughton, thank you so much for your kind words. And President Reverend Pitts, thank you so much for your generous, gracious introduction. First, I must say that it's great to be here in a room of smiling, happy people who, I hope, Reverend Pitts, are actually counting how much money they have raised and not how much they have lost. You know, in times of economic stress, investors talk about stocks being underwater. You ever heard that phrase? Stocks underwater? Well, as the state's chief elected finance officer, I've been experiencing a lot of sea sickness lately. The financial waters have been a bit steep. In fact, when I heard that I was invited to a Freedom Fund dinner, I thought it was an attempt by my staff to get me out of the office at a decent hour and on dry land. And then I got here and I saw my homeboy, Wally Johnson. You know, we grew up together in our capital city of Hartford. And so I feel like I'm home right now with the Johnsons and his better half. So I'm going to try to be on my best behavior. Okay, no, seriously, I am all the more delighted to be here because I believe we are on the same page when it comes to our desire to help make a difference in the lives of Connecticut families. The NAACP is the premier civil rights organization in our country, and its work in Danbury and throughout our state is absolutely critical, especially in this fast-changing economic, political, and social environment. So, let me commend you, Reverend Pitts, along with the hard-working board and executive leaders of this prestigious organization for contributing your time and your expertise to the essential work of the NAACP. Why don't we all give them a round of applause? Kudos to everyone involved in putting together this event and to all of our precious supporters and friends of this organization. I congratulate you for making such a prudent investment of your time and money by being here this evening. Now, I understand that we have some extraordinary honorees in our midst, and to all the outstanding individuals we pay tribute to this evening, congratulations on receiving this special accolade highlighted by the theme Ministers of Change in recognition of your accomplishments. It gives me pleasure on behalf of the state of Connecticut, Office of the Treasurer, to present each of you the Treasurer's Public Leadership Citation, which you will receive later in the program. Now, in this year, 2008, the theme, Ministers of Change, confers distinction to the awesome faith leaders honored tonight, and also brings to mind the remarkable legacy of positive change that was powerfully lived and led by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Do you know it was 40 years ago this year that his journey was cut short? But his dream for social and economic justice, a dream our forebears also held, remains a bright light inside each of us. We are all accountable to answering the call, wherever and whenever we can, to make those dreams for our nation a reality. A democratic society based on the principles of freedom, justice, and equality for all people. And we have made progress indeed. We've made progress as a people and a nation. Your branch's long-standing advocacy here in Greater Danbury is a significant emblem of that progress. Now, some may say that my standing here as a principal fiduciary of $50 billion, well, it was the last time I looked at the market, but I shut it down about 2 o'clock this afternoon. Some would say that in my role, it is also emblematic of our progress in the business of money. But I say, if you can't own it, control it. More on that in a minute. You know, despite the progress we've made throughout the years to fully achieve a fair and equitable society, I don't have to tell you this, but our gains are tempered by the reality of present-day circumstances in our nation, and indeed right here in our own state. Today we are facing one of the most difficult and demanding times in our nation's history. We see incredible poverty, ethical lapses, and the tragedy of war. We see a troubling lack of progress on fundamental issues of fairness, justice, and equity. We see the escalating costs of food and energy, although we must admit that we have gotten some temporary relief lately at the pump, thanks to the vagaries of the market. But I can't figure out why my heating bill is so high, and the year's coldest season has yet to arrive. Can anybody help me out here? Do I have witnesses out here? Anyone think you deal with me? And what's up with the skyrocketing cost of college tuition? You know, it's essentially out of reach for our average families. I'm not just talking about those of us who are most in need, but I'm talking about your average citizen can't afford to send their child to college. Well, that is for those of us who haven't checked out. More on that in a minute. You know, we also see the rising cost of health care and a troubling lack of progress on providing for the uninsured. We see growing concerns about job security and pension uncertainty, while exorbitant executive compensation soars and shareholder value plunges, along with decent living wages and benefits for workers. To make matters worse, some CEOs are actually paid astronomical pay for failure. Did you hear that? For failure. But don't get me started. My office has been on the road less traveled for years, using our shareholder rights to advocate for better corporate governance on issues like eliminating excessive executive compensation, linking pay with company performance, and giving shareholders a say on the matter. Now, in today's turbulent market, with everybody's stock underwater, we are now being joined by a chorus. Some would call them the Johnnies Come Lately. And here's one generational issue that could severely affect the quality of life for our children and generations to come. We see expanding threats to the future health of our planet and our economy posed by climate change. And if that were not enough, the upheaval of our financial markets has raised alarm and distress and a lot of fear. What we are witnessing is the failure of many of our financial institutions to properly disclose and effectively manage risk, fueled by none other than unfettered greed. Another part of this failure is due to a stubborn resistance to regulatory policies that would have provided necessary oversight within the banking and non-banking financial institutions. As former Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan admitted earlier today, where was he when he was in charge? And the impact is sending shockwaves from Wall Street to Main Street into the kitchen tables of your average citizens who can least afford to bear the burden of the resulting hardships. So, how has the Treasury responded during this unprecedented period of upheaval? Well, as the mayor of Danbury said, in so many words, we may be a little underwater, but we do have our floating devices. In the immediate wake of Lehman Brothers' collapse and the sale of Merrill Lynch, just a few weeks ago, as treasurer, I sought to ensure our state retirees, Mayor, our beneficiaries, and most importantly, our taxpayers. Because you know, at the end of the day, you guys are on the hook. I sought to ensure them of the soundness and integrity of Connecticut's $20-some billion pension fund, that it remains intact for all those who depend on these assets for a secure retirement. And I would say that the key to our ability to withstand the storm of this financial downturn is that we are long-term investors with a well-diversified portfolio, meaning we don't put all of our eggs in one basket. For us, it is the long-term investment performance that matters the most. So, yes, we are well positioned to weather this latest turbulence. Of course, like the rest of the country, we are experiencing significant fallout. Now, if you think your 401k plan has taken a hit, try this for size. From July 1, 2008 through October 22nd, I'm not going to talk about today. Actually, the market was up to me today, by the way. I should have probably gotten that figure. From July 1, 2008 through October 22nd, the net market value of Connecticut's pension fund assets declined by 19%, or $4.9 billion. Now, that explains my seasickness. Nonetheless, let me emphasize, we have a fund that is elastic, that's as resilient as our nation's economy. Now, those of you who are investing for the short term, not the long term, I would suggest that if you haven't already done so, consult with a financial advisor now on where to take the next flight to quality. It's been observed that the U.S. Treasury and agencies have become one of the popular ports of refuge or safe havens. You know, in my opinion, the bailout was a necessary evil given the enormity of the turmoil. But going forward, it is vital that taxpayer and shareholder rights be protected, that government's infusion of capital on Wall Street trickle down to Main Street and to Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. As they say, sooner than later, that no one profit from this mess who had a hand in creating it, and that all who work in or regulate the financial markets take a hard, serious look at the poor corporate governance policies and practices, and work to provide for the proper oversight and transparency of the financial services industry that is so vital to our economy, not just here in the USA, but around the globe. There's not a market in the world that has not been affected or that has not gone underwater. What the current financial market crisis also underscores is this. Now more than ever, we need to open the doors of opportunity as wide as they can go. Just as diversifying our investment portfolio is a prudent and wise strategy, so is it prudent and wise to diversify the pool from which we draw the best and most talented finance professionals, and frankly, leaders and professionals in every field of endeavor. And while no one knows with certainty when another leader, or 2, or 10, or 100 leaders of passion and grace, power and determination will emerge from our midst to take up the journey and to do so with us, we do know this. In the same year that Dr. King was struck down, Shirley Chisholm rose up, the first African-American woman elected to the Congress of the United States. And later, she would run for president, demonstrating by her powerful example that in America, we must believe and we must strive to achieve. We also know this. Today, we are on the threshold of a historic presidential election. We will elect the first African-American president or the first woman vice president. But no matter which candidate is victorious, it certainly will be a decisive election. That is because our president, the next president of these United States, will face unprecedented economic and domestic challenges. You know, we always seem to get it with at that point. And we as American citizens must be full participants in the democratic process by letting our leaders know what we demand. Fairness, equality, social and economic justice for all. And the way to let our voices be heard is to register now and make sure that we all vote on November 4th. Make sure you call your friends and relatives in those swing states. Because Connecticut's already over. We only got 7 electoral votes. By the way, I know that in Danbury that you are doing your part. Many of you going the extra mile or 2 or 3 to empower citizens by registering them to vote. In fact, since January of this year, more than 1,100 new registrants between the ages of 18 and 29. That is the hardest demographic to change. And I think it happened all because of the NAACP's commitment to voter empowerment. Now, while you were doing a tremendous job in the social advocacy arena, I'm doing my part in promoting economic parity. And while I believe that it is important to increase our responsible ranks at the table of political power, I also believe it is just as important to our progress as a society to be equally represented at the table of economic power and enable all of our people to get a foothold on the ladder of economic success. And we need to make sure that the bottom of our well-intentioned act is a solid financial foothold. And from where I stand as Connecticut's treasurer, that foundation must have economic parity for every household, access to jobs that pay a living wage, affordable quality housing, a plan to build personal assets, and a way to send our children to college. You know, it is true that Connecticut is one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest state in our country. But what is also true about our dear home state is the gap between the top 20% of wage earners and the bottom 20%, which is the 3rd largest in the nation. That's all about economic segregation. And not surprisingly is the persistent economic disparity along gender and racial lines. You know, we ought to have a zero tolerance level for the dire economic circumstances faced by too many of our Connecticut families. Now, before I go any further, because I don't have that much more, but I have to say a few other things. I want to make it very clear before I'm accused of being one of those tax and spend liberals. I really hate liberals, you know. But as your state treasurer, I care deeply about making sure that we invest our money prudently and spend it responsibly. Although it's not my job to spend the money. It's my job to safeguard it and make it grow. It's the legislature's job to spend it. So if your program is cut, don't blame me. I'm sorry, Jason. Is he here or did he leave? Where is he? Hi, I wasn't talking about you. I forgot you was in the room. And all the other dignitaries at the local and state level. Anyone who knows me understands that I insist on getting a good return on our state investments. Isn't that right, Representative? Representative? You know, the current financial crisis has also shown us that we can't separate the state's financial health from the economic well-being of its citizens and residents. And that we should not lose sight of an important agenda. That is to support and encourage initiatives that will once and for all rectify the disparity that still exists in the economic outlook of the citizens of this state. And that's why my office spearheaded the creation of a $100 million housing trust fund designed to help increase the supply of affordable housing in our state. How many of you have young professionals that come back to Connecticut and they got to live in your house because they can't find quality affordable housing? I see some of you out there. I'm talking about the kind of housing that the average citizen ought to be able to afford. Okay? Housing is not only about the traditional effort to ensure quality shelter for the poor and low-income families of our state. Again, let me repeat this. We need to continue that, take on that responsibility. But housing is also about an adequate supply of quality homes and rental units that the average resident can afford. It's about, and that's about opportunity and jobs. It's about expanding the tax base of our local communities in our state. It's about job retention, making sure that business can recruit talent, skilled talent. So yes, from my perspective as state treasurer, the Housing Trust Fund, the first of its kind in Connecticut history, makes sound economic sense. You know, while my focus is indeed on dollars and cents, not bricks and mortar, I firmly, and by the way, I don't minister that Housing Trust Fund. It was, it was my administration's baby, but it is being ministered by the Department of Economic and Community Development, and it's for nonprofit and for-profit developers to build affordable housing. It could be mixtures, but it's quality affordable housing. And so there's a lot of information on Department of Economic and Community Development's website about that program. I firmly believe that the financial cloud of the Treasury can be used to make a difference in people's lives and the vitality of our businesses. It's what the financial industry often calls the double bottom line. Let me give you several examples of what I'm talking about that go beyond our core responsibility to safeguard and grow the money. For example, we're putting some of our investment dollars, yes, in urban areas and in our inner cities, where there is a wealth of untapped resources and value. And that gives us the opportunity to get a good return on our investment while helping to revitalize our communities, including right here in our own state. At the Connecticut Treasury, because we see the financial fitness of our citizens as tied to the long-term sustainability of our state's economy, we advocate successfully the legislature, thanks to folks like Jason Bartlett, for a state income tax deduction when you contribute to CHEDA. Now you heard me say that earlier, right? That is our state's college savings program, administered by my office, designed to help our families realize the dream of a college education for our children. And that is why we are serving as a catalyst for promoting financial education throughout our state, especially for our young people. You know, too many of them just don't understand how to manage money responsibly. They think they know. But they don't know how to account for it, how to save it, and how to spend it. And that is particularly troubling because more than any generation that preceded them, this generation must prepare for daunting challenges as they become young adults in an increasingly dynamic and complex financial marketplace. And as we've all become acutely aware of the subprime mortgage crisis, and some of the market participants that I would refer to as the unscrupulous lenders, the predatory lending, it's important. Financial knowledge is power, and they keep you in your home. What is equally troubling, and it's unfortunate that some of us are uninformed, or were uninformed. What is equally troubling is that the financial literacy gap between whites and non-whites and between the rich and poor has actually widened. Now, without personal financial knowledge, we sell our kids short and put them at a competitive disadvantage. We increase the chances of them falling into a spiral of financial trouble. You know, we all know that because most of us live there. Because, you know, we didn't go to school when financial education was mandated. Do you know that it's still not mandated today in schools? What is up with that? And when you fall into a spiral of financial trouble, that limits your possibilities and your potential for a lifetime. In my view, an education without financial education is like giving your kids, the keys to the car without teaching them how to drive. They may be able to start it up and head off down the road, but sooner or later, they'll run into trouble. Now, that's why my administration will continue to work to increase public awareness about money matters. And it has certainly been rewarding to work on this important double-line initiative with faith-based organizations, the private sector, and community organizations all across our state, including the NAACP. It's not only youth, but women who have traditionally been neglected on matters of financial management. And that's even though we were always the accountant in our homes. That's why, in conjunction with Harvard YWCA, my office spearheaded the creation of the Money Conference for Women. Now, each year in November, we host several hundred women from across the state for free workshops focusing on money management, investment strategies, retirement planning. I see some of you baby boomers out there. Do you have a retirement nest egg? And it's for women of all ages, economic backgrounds, levels of financial knowledge. The Money Conference, by the way, for women will take place this November 8th. And you can find more information at www.connecticutmoneyconferenceforwomen.com. Now, here are two final examples of the Connecticut Treasury's double bottom line initiatives. We're working to encourage change on Wall Street and increase access to capital for our families to grow and prosper. And we're working to encourage more of our leading American corporations to fully open their doors to embrace diversity. And I'm speaking about the kind of diversity that extends beyond a company's portfolio to include diversity among those employed in the financial community, those who serve on corporate boards, and those with whom they do business, procurement of services, goods and services, from small businesses, minority-owned businesses, and women-owned businesses. Now, we certainly practice what we preach at the Connecticut Treasury. When my administration began in 1999, there were 4 firms owned by women and or minorities that were helping to manage a portion of the Connecticut Pension Fund assets. Today, there are 22 firms of these firms that have a contract or subcontractual relationship with my office. And the size of the assets they manage on behalf of the Connecticut Treasury went from $570 million to more than $4 billion. One of those firms, as a result of our doing business with them, is the largest black-owned venture capitalist in our country. And that firm is based right here in our state, Fairview Capital, out of Farmington, Connecticut. Now, From my standpoint as an institutional investor, it's not just about improving the number of women and minorities, as well as small and emerging firms and Connecticut-based firms. Yes, I do have a parochial view about this. Let's keep some of our money in our own backyard. It's not just about improving the number of these firms on our roster of financial services vendors. It's about improving our bottom line. I don't want you to think anything else. But let me say this loudly and clearly. You can do both. And on the global front, moving on, we continue to divest our funds from companies that have ignored our plea to act responsibly and put pressure on the government of Sudan to stop killing innocent people, many of them children. Some of you may know about our work in this area because of an excellent video on the subject called The Promise, produced right here by Danbury High School students and school officials. The terrible tragedy in Darfur is not simply a moral issue. When a company is viewed as merely profiteering at the expense of basic human rights, we believe that the financial health of that company cannot be sustained. And that can and will erode our long-term shareholder value. What I've given you is a sample of how we're answering the call, acting as change agents, but we are just one voice in the choir. True progress will be achieved when our collective voices move us forward on the path of economic justice. There are different means to the same end, different paths to the same destination. What we must agree on is the necessity to get there and the imperative to do what needs to be done. And no one knows that better than the people here in this room. And if there is anyone out there that has any doubts about our ability to ensure the inheritance of social and economic justice, I've heard the wind is growing louder and louder. And it says, yes, we can. Thank you.
It's certainly impressive and remarkable, some of the accomplishments and success the Honorable Denise Danbury has. Let's give her another hand, please. She didn't appear to be too seasick up here, did she? Nah. Excellent job. Really impressed with the accomplishments you've made in the state of Connecticut. We're proud to be members and citizens of the state of Connecticut because of your success here. Absolutely. Okay, moving on at this point in time, we're going to ask that Miss Armstrong and Willie Knight come forth to light the candles for the memorial service, which is over here. If you come at this point in time. Before we move on to the presentations for our legends, we'd like to recognize and just take a moment to remember the ones that have gone before us. If you would just bow your head for a moment, in a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you very much.